What I'm more interested in, for the sake of this podcast, is what are the left-wing people thinking? So they do their analysis in Moscow, which isn't terrible. They just interview people in the town, but it's kind of bookended by their biases, and that's what I want to examine: their assumptions, their biases. There's some assumptions here right away. The assumption is that we have a group of people that disagree with the First Amendment. First Amendment just says this: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, the establishment of religion is the first in the list, and if you notice, it's very simply in plain English says Congress, okay? The national government we're talking about here, the general government, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Doesn't say that state governments can't do that. Doesn't say that there are other entities outside of Congress that can't do things like this. It's Congress that shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Now, of course, with the incorporation doctrine, this notion has gone away. We apply this now to the states and to local municipalities even. But originally, the intent was, and what it really still says, and I think it should be, it's Congress. At the time that this was adopted, 9 of the 13 colonies, or states at that point, had established religions in their states. 9 of 13. The majority had religious tests for office or state-funded religious entities. And it's assumed at that time, pretty much everyone assumes, America is a Christian country, in the sense that not everyone's a Christian, but in the sense that we operate based upon a Christian moral framework. The other thing is he makes a jump from the First Amendment to this wall of separation, which is a term taken from Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptists. The Danbury Baptists were very concerned when Thomas Jefferson was elected president. And their concern was mainly things that were said about Thomas Jefferson. There's a lot of mudslinging in the campaign and against him, because he was supposedly this atheist, because he had sympathies with the French Revolution. He was actually an ambassador to France, and he kind of got on board with that to some extent at the time. And so they thought, well, this guy is going to foist atheism upon us. He's going to bring in the French Revolution into the United States. That was Thomas Jefferson in the minds of his opponents. So the Danbury Baptist Association writes a letter to him and basically says, look, we've heard this about you, and we just want to kind of make sure we're okay, that we can freely exercise our religion. And I'm obviously summarizing, but Thomas Jefferson writes them back, and he uses this phrase, and he attributes it to the First Amendment, that there's been a wall made between the establishment of church and state. The reason he said that, though, was to comfort the church. It was to assure them that he's not going to interfere with their practice of religion in the state of Connecticut. The founders would have been fine with Christian principles applied even to the national sphere. What they were suspicious of, and in the historical context, what they were concerned about from England, was this establishment in which the church and the state collude and could punish people that deviated. For instance, Baptists were punished severely in places where Anglicanism was the established religion. And that was the kind of thing that they were getting away from. In fact, during the Revolution, they were very concerned in Canada that it would be officially Catholic, and that this was one of the things that led to the Revolution, or the War for Independence, was this fear that could happen in what is now the United States. Now the whole thing is going to be like, these people aren't real Christian. Here's the logic they're using. This is the important part. Meet the Press is using the logic they're not Christians because of the 3 things that we just talked about. Well, look, they insensitive on race stuff, anti LGBT, masculine Christianity. Those are the things that are so offensive, and those things disqualify them from being true Christians, because we know true Christians wouldn't actually want a Christian town, apparently. True Christians that behave themselves, good boys and girls, that obey the real authority, which is the government, the real God, they aren't a threat to the implementation of equity, diversity, inclusion, or anything the state wants to do.
And so this idea of a country for the people, by the people, it's really a country for a particular people.
So what if a number of people move into Moscow and they vote the bums out, and they have Christians that run the town at that point, at city council? Wouldn't that be democracy? Sounds like they're using the mechanisms that are already present to try to evoke a change. That's not opposed to democracy. They're not cheating. They're just using the mechanisms that are available.
And by the way, going back to Christianity, and Ann, maybe you could shed some light on this, but Christianity, I mean, Jesus Christ invited people to follow. It was never an imposition, right? Because
let's put it like that. He did not twist their arm. You could come or not, you want to follow this guy, you don't. Yeah. That's all it is.
But who's twisting arms to convert to Christianity in this scenario? Show me the person. Who's the person that's like, we should have forced conversions? They're like smugly laughing. Oh my goodness, Jesus would be so against this. It's a straw man at this point, though.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one of the insights of sociology is it's easiest to define who we are when we know who we're not. And so when you can define yourself against who you're not, that's really powerful. It creates very powerful in-group bonds. We're going to pull together. We're going to face the outside threat.
The whole panel is defining themselves against Christian nationalists, that we are not Christian nationalists. It's a separation. They are, and let's put them under the microscope. The whole thing is a separation. There's no inclusivity here. There's no welcoming a Christian nationalist to the panel, and let's try to break bread, and let's try to be inclusive. It is all about dividing. And yet, then you have Andrew Whitehead here talking about how it's so, oh my goodness. I don't know. The hypocrisy is astounding because it's like right in front of them. And these are educated people. It's a professor of sociology. I don't understand this. How come they can't see that what they're accusing the Christian nationalists of doing is the very basis for their entire program?